When we work a tubular bind-off in a round, I have a little tip that I learned from Suzanne Brine. I'm measuring about, let's say this is the circumference of what I need to bind off, and then I'm going to take about 3 times the amount of yarn, cut it, thread it to the tapestry needle, and every stitch needs to be bound off twice. And the first 2 stitches are going to be bound off only once at the beginning, and then we're going to come back to them at the end. This is why we want to mark them with a stitch marker. So I'm going to place a stitch marker on the first knit stitch so I can come back to it later and just begin my bind off. It's a knit stitch, so that's a knit off and then a purl on the next knit stitch. I'm skipping the purl stitch and I'm just inserting my needle purlwise to the next knit stitch. I'm going to pull my yarn. So the knit stitch, the first knit stitch is off. Now I'm going to take off the first purl stitch, so I'm going to mark it as well for later. I'm just placing the marker on the stitch. So next step is purl off. So I'm inserting my needle purlwise and take it off, and then I need to insert my needle knitwise to the next purl stitch. I'm skipping the first stitch, which is a knit stitch. I'm bringing my needle from back to front and insert it into this purl stitch from front to back. And I'm going to pull the yarn. Make sure the yarn is under the needle and make sure it's not twisted in the markers. And now I'm going to, this is a big gap because it's in the space between the needles. I want to pull the yarn a little bit to close this gap so I can see that there's no gap here anymore and I can continue. So insert my needle into the knit stitch knitwise, take it off into the next knit stitch purlwise and leave it on and pull the yarn. Then into the first purl stitch purlwise, take it off, and the next purl stitch between the stitches to the front and into the stitch to the back and pull the yarn. And you can do the knitwise into the purl stitch in 2 steps. Let me show you. So first it's a knit, knit off, purl, knit, purl into knit on, and then purl into a purl off. And now I can do the knit into the purl stitch in 2 steps. I can bring my needle to the front and pull it, and then take the needle and insert it knitwise into this purl stitch. And of course I'm going to leave it on. It's a second stitch. I can take it off. Let's continue with the tubular bind-off. So knit off, purl on, and purl into purl off, knit into purl on, and we're going to meet at the end of the round to see how to use the markers and finish the round. We are on the last 2 pairs, so I'm taking off the knit stitch and purling the next knit stitch, and then I've got the purl off and knit on for the purl stitches, and I have the last 2 stitches on the needle. And here is where we come back to the markers. So I'm going to slide my stitches on the needle, and I want to pick up the first knit stitch on my needle because I only insert my needle into it once, and the first purl stitch. That's why we need the markers. It's easy to find them when we just need to pull the markers and bring them on our needles. And now that we have them, these 2 stitches were sewn at the end of the last pair, and these 2 stitches were sewn at the beginning of the first pairs, and now we only need to sew once every stitch. I'm going to slide them all back to where I was, where I stopped, and now I have knit on and purl, knit off and purl on, but actually I can take off this knit stitch because this is the second time. It was the first knit stitch of the beginning of the round, and then I have purl off. I can lose this knit stitch because we don't need it, and knit the last purl stitch, and all of our stitches were sewn twice. Now all we need to do is conceal the yarn, and when we have ribbing, we don't want to do it to the width of the ribbing because it hurts the stretchiness of the fabric. We just want to take maybe, yeah, that's enough length of the ribbing so we can hide it all the way down into the ribbing. The way I do it is I'm going to insert my yarn 90 degrees so I see the stitch here, the leg of the stitch is going that way, leaning to the left. I need to insert my needle 90 degrees to this left leaning leg. So I'm going to insert my needle into the leg of this stitch and then all the way around and under the next leg, all the way around and under the next leg. And I'll just do it all the way to the bottom of the ribbing. When I have enough stitches on my needle, I can just pull my yarn. And that's all we need to do to get a nice finish to our rib. And if I feel that the last stitch here is a little bit loose, I can find where this stitch is connected to and just pull a little bit the yarn and look for where this stitch is coming from. Yeah, it's this leg, so I'm going to pull a little bit here. Okay, spread the yarn axis around. Yeah, so okay, I took the axis of the stitch here and just pulled a little bit. I can maybe have a little bit more pulling here to take the excess yarn to other stitches and spread it all around, and I think that's fine. You don't see anything weird here, any loose stitch at the end, so that's only a little bit of excess at the last stitch, and you can spread it around your knitting. That's it. We're going to complete concealing the yarn here, and I can go all the way down and just cut the yarn. I like to leave maybe 1/2 centimeter here at the bottom. I'm going to pull it a little bit to have all the yarn that I need when it stretches, and cut not too close to the edge so I can still have a little bit of stretch here without the yarn getting away. And we have enough yarn concealed here so it doesn't come out all of a sudden. And this is how the cuff looks like at the end.